Hi guys, we are going to be doing our page for exponents in our journal. So what you are going to need to be doing is opening your journal. You should be doing this on page, this amazing Aliron's super organized journal. You should be doing this on page 43-ish. So remember we did order of ops notes and we had our distributive property notes on one side. They're going to be going on the side that is facing your distributive property notes. These are going to be your exponents notes. So go ahead and get yourself to that page. And at the top of it, I would like for you to write exponents. So we don't have a ton of stuff that's going on this page, but we do have some things that are pretty important. So the first thing I want you guys to do is you are going to draw. So this is your header. You are going to draw, and I want you guys to take up two lined lines with this. You're going to draw this. And then you're going to draw yourself some little arrows because we're going to write down what these things are called. So you guys know this little number here. This guy is our exponent. And this guy is our base. And as you all know, the exponent tells us how many times to multiply the base times itself. So in this case, we would have 5 times 5 times 5. And I know this is not new news for you. This is not new information, but it's still good for us to have a good example because sometimes kids mess this up. Sometimes kids might think that this is 15 when really it's 5 times 5 times 5. So then underneath it, we're going to do two more examples like that. We're going to do 2 to the second power, which equals 2 times 2, which you all know is 4. And then we're going to write 2 to the third power, which equals 2 times 2 times 2. And this is a really good one to memorize just because you'll see it a lot. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So this is what we do when we're talking about positive exponents, but sometimes we're going to have negatives thrown in there, which you know that's what we're learning about right now. So of course we're going to kick this up a notch and add that in there. So I want you guys to write on the next line with negatives and an exclamation point to show that's important. So there's two different ways that we might see exponents with negatives. The first way, can you see my foot there? Look at that, that's fun. The first way that we can see exponents with negatives is like this. So we might see something that ends up looking like this. You might end up with this after you do some problems within the parentheses, and you might end up with a -5, or you might just have a -5 to the second power. So what I want you to notice is that those parentheses are kind of like a box around -5. So that means that we're going to do whatever's in here to the second power. So this is going to be -5 times itself 2 times. And you guys know a negative times a negative is a positive. So -5 times -5 is positive 25. So that's when we have our negative inside the parentheses and then we have it raised to an exponent. Sometimes you might see this. So you see how this is different because it doesn't have the box around it? That means the negative is in front, not locked to the 5. So what this would equal is -5 times 5. So we're doing 5 times itself twice, but the negative is only attached to the first one. So -5 times +5, we know that's going to be a negative. Multiply those numbers together and we get 25. So do you see how it's different? If the parentheses are around it, it's boxing it in where the negative is attached to it. If it's like this, the negative's kind of hanging out here in front, and we do our exponents and then the negative sticks on there. So I want you guys to write a couple of examples for me at the bottom of your page. Let me zoom a little bit, which you guys know works so well. There we go. Okay, so, what I want you guys to do now is underneath it, we're going to write two examples. We're going to do a -3 in parentheses to the third power and then we're going to do a negative 3 to the third power. So I want you to pause this and see what you think should happen here. And then when you think you know what should happen, go ahead and push play, and we'll fill it in together. Okay, so hopefully what you remembered is that in this case, the negatives is boxed inside with the parentheses. So this is actually negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And in this case, the negative is just attached at the front, so it's not locked to that 3. So we would have negative 3 times 3 times 3. So what's interesting is that we may end up with the same answer in both cases. So up here, you guys know when we multiply, we'll do these guys. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9, and then I have to multiply that guy times negative 3, which a positive times a negative is a negative. 9 times 3 is 27. Down here, I've got a negative times a positive, which is a negative. So 3 times 3 is 9, times a positive. A negative times a positive is a negative. So my answer is 27. Just because I ended up with the same answer, that doesn't mean that these are the same. It's because I had an odd number of negatives. So what I wanted you to understand is that if your negative is in the parentheses, then it's the exponent does whatever's in the parentheses that many times. If the negative is outside of the parentheses, then it's only attached for the first part of the expanded form of the negatives. All right, thanks so much for watching. Get this copied in your journal and come show one of the adults.